So, alright. We're going to be starting this thing live, right, proper scene, right? I'm going to be talking about all the different POVs from A Dance with Dragons and what the fudge they will be doing in the Winds of Winter. I'll probably talk about Stannis, I'll probably talk about Daenerys, I'll probably talk about Theon, I'll probably talk about Melisandre. All of these characters. I'm going to give everybody about 10 to 15 minutes to join us before we get started. This stream could be, I don't know, pretty long. We'll see how it goes. Happy Saturday, and please slap a like on this video. Like goal is going to be 69. I'm in the chat. let's go ahead and start. Why is it not telling me? Okay, 7 minutes. Alright. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Sir Hunt's Reviews. My name's Mark. This live stream. If you've been following me on Twitter, it's not really impromptu. This stream had to be coming. There's too much to talk about for Dance with Dragons. Do me a massive favor and slap a like on this video. The like goal will be 69. First person we're going to be talking about is Daenerys. Let's see. Oh, that'll work, I guess. We'll do that. Whoa, why is it so big? There we go. And then we'll do this. What the fuck? Where's the picture I had ready? There we go. Oh. Well, I guess we'll do this. Perfect. Alright, cool. So, Daenerys. In A Dance with Dragons, obviously we will be talking about what Daenerys will be doing in the Winds of Winter, but her last chapter in A Dance with Dragons is pretty interesting, right? So, basically, I guess for anyone who's watching who's not familiar, haven't read A Dance with Dragons recently, or haven't read it at all, she's pretty much where she was in Season 5, the Pits of Daznak, right? So, she's actually, I guess some differences off the top of my head that I can think of from the show. She's actually been sexual with Hizdar. She's much more of a, I don't really want to say little girl, but she kind of is. She's like got very like, silly thoughts, right? She thinks like she's in love with Daario Naharis. And she knows that they should never be together, right? So she does, she goes against what her heart wants, and she marries Hizdar Zolorak. And he is, obviously, a fucking douche. He's actually, when she's first intimate with him, she notices that he's, like, touches her softly or whatever, but she kind of just thinks, like, oh, man, he'll be done soon. Can't wait for him to finish. But their marriage goes along. She's obviously like keeping war at bay by marrying Hizdar. That's really the only reason why she does it. She's like, bring me peace. She's like, bring me 90 days of peace, and if you can do that, I'll marry you. And he does it because, well, like Sir Barristan says, he's the leader of the fucking Harpies. So he gives her the 90 days of peace. They marry. There's a bunch of stuff that she kind of pushes off to him because he's the king, right, of Meereen now. And one of those things is reopening the Pits of Daznak. So it kind of comes to a head in one of her last chapters in A Dance with Dragons, right? She goes with Sir Barristan. She goes with Strong Belwas, Hizdar Zolorak, obviously, to the Pits of Daznak, right? They go to basically his box. He's got like a this little area in the Pits of Daznak where he's stocked the box with food and a couple of other things. But he basically encourages Daenerys to try these honey locusts that are sweet and spicy at the same time. And Strong Belwas, being the fat ass that he is, excuse me, that was silly. There's no need to call him a fat ass, but he kind of is. He like starts eating the locusts, and then immediately he notices that, hey, something is not right, right? He slaps his tummy. He starts retching horribly. What's interesting is really funny. They're having different people fight each other, and Tyrion and Penny are riding on a dog and a pig, and they're sort of jousting. And Hizdar's like, little do they know, fucking lions are about to come out and kill them. Obviously, when Daenerys hears this, she's like, what the fuck? No lions, goddammit, you will not do that. So then Hizdar's like, all right, no lions. So then, obviously, Tyrion doesn't die then. She doesn't know it's Tyrion at all, right? So, the fighting continues. And then everyone sort of just looks up because dark fucking wings appear on the horizon. And then, of course, there's a little bit more to it. The blood shed, the sheep. Dragons love mutton. They love sheep. That's how Nettles, which literally means troublesome, that's how Nettles is able to steal a dragon. She's a dragon seed, but in the Dance of Dragons, she uses mutton to steal sheep stealer. So dragons infamously love sheeps. They love eating them. They love drinking their blood. They love eating their half-charred, half-raw flesh, right? So this draws Drogon. It could be a combination of the sense that he knows something is up, something's not quite right. He senses that his mother is in danger, right? So there's like 20,000 people in the pits of Daznak watching the fighting happen. So if the Sons of the Harpy are going to attack Daenerys, this is kind of the best time to do it, right? So Drogon is either attracted to the blood shed and the mutton, or a combination of the bloodshed, the mutton, and the sense that his mother could be in peril danger, right? She's surrounded by enemies. There is no greater time when she's in danger. This is when Drogon shows up. It's like his most favorite time. He swoops in and like, hey, mommy, what you doing? I love you. Jump on my back, right? So that's kind of what he does. So he lands, chaos fucking ensues. This is kind of the first Dance with Dragons in Dance with Dragons. I kind of feel like George should have named it A Quarrel with Dragons, or because one of Dany's dragons gets shot with one. And then in this chaos, Hizdahr Zolorak is like, kill it, slay the beast, bring that motherfucker down, right? Barristan Selmy takes note of that. Daenerys grabs a whip, goes out to the pits of Daznak. She gets all of her hair burned off. It's quite hilarious the way it's described, right? But she's able to satiate the dragon, like he's breathing fire. He's got a spear stuck in his back, right? He's got smoking wounds. He's confused. He's like, I thought this was a sheep party. What the fuck is going on? You guys are trying to kill me. I just wanted to eat some sheep, right? He does kill some of the men that Hizdahr Zolorak commands to try to kill him. He rips one of their arms off or some shit. I can't remember specifics. But Daenerys ultimately whips at the dragon. One of the times it slashes across his face, and then he stares her down like, bitch, hold up. Who the fuck is... And then he ultimately, allows her to mount him. They fly off. When they... As they start to... ascend, Daenerys orgasms, right? You can debate me if you want to, but she's literally like, yes, take me, now, higher, right? Those are the things you would say if you have a dragon horn in your... No, I'm not going to say that, but, the feeling itself is orgasmic. She's dreamed of flying her whole life. That's what Targaryens are meant to do. Targaryens are meant to fly. They're meant to see the world from a different angle, right? Valyrians in general, yes, they were assholes. Yes, slavery is terrible. But the Targaryens are some of the best thing to come from the Valyrian freehold. The main reason being is because they can bring death and chaos and all this shit. But they also bring order. They bring rules. They bring the threat of death without actually having to kill people. There's a dragon. When Targaryens have their dragons, they have their power. They're not just silver, blonde-haired retards or... idiots running around with dragon sigils. They have their power manifest in person, right? It is important. A Targaryen alone in the world is a terrible thing. A Targaryen without their dragon in the world is an even worse thing, right? So that's how we got the Mad King. I'm getting too much on a side tangent here. So basically, Daenerys flies off. There are rumors, because there are several crossbolt quarrels that are fired at her, but ultimately miss. One of them actually comes really close to her face. She said she could feel the gust on her face, the gust of wind from the quarrel. But she disappears. No one knows what the fuck happened to her. Like, her city is like, yo, she died. It's quite possible because of the chaos and all of this shit that she died and her body was burned and unrecognizable. There are people that even say that they saw her fall off the dragon and into the Skahazadan, right? Which is this big fucking river. But that's obviously that's not what happens. On a side note, Victarion actually kills anyone who says Daenerys is dead. All the male POVs except for maybe Stannis and maybe fucking Keevan, but he's fucking dead, are like either on their way to Daenerys to offer her a marriage pact, want to steal one of her dragons, or just in general are obsessed with her. Like Quentin, right? So, I mean, whatever. But anyway, the people closest to her, like Barristan Selmy, Jorah Mormont, even Tyrion, who's not even really close to her, they know she's still alive. They know for the most part she's probably still alive. Like, obviously they have their doubts, but they can just sense. Kind of like Cersei's connection with Jaime, like Kevin and his POVs, like the epilogue and the Dance with Dragons. He's like, I wonder why this crazy bitch hasn't asked about her brother yet. And then he brings up Jaime, and she goes, oh, well, he's not dead. I would know it. She's like, Jaime's not going to leave this world without me, right? You know, after reading this, I don't necessarily, let me take this picture of Dany down. Oh, wait, wrong one. I don't necessarily agree with Dan and Dave, but I can see what they tried to do. It was just a jumbled mess because they cut too many characters out, right? So, like, I don't remember what my point was, but basically, you know, there's several people. Oh yeah, the epilogue with Kevin, right? So yeah, Jaime says that, and then you know, Cersei thinks like he wouldn't leave the world without me. He wouldn't do that. So maybe that's why Dan and Dave were like, we have to kill them together somehow. What you got, right? And they just threw up a bunch of ideas, picked one out of a hat, and they were like crushed by rubble in King's Landing. They still die in the city. They die near the Iron Throne. That's what they always wanted, right? So you can kind of see that. But anyway, getting back on track here. So we talked about Daenerys in A Dance with Dragons, like what happens with her, right? So then when we catch up with her after a few more different POVs of people thinking she's dead, we find out that she's at Dragonstone. Daenerys went to Dragonstone this whole time. She's been back at Dragonstone. Not the one you're thinking of. One in the Dothraki Sea. It's basically a Drogon's lair. It's literally a grouping of stones where a dragon lays. It's kind of interesting because when Targaryens flee, usually from King's Landing, they go to Dragonstone. So it's interesting. Daenerys having no memories of Dragonstone. Obviously, it's where she was born in a storm at sea, right? She didn't have any memories of Dragonstone, but she calls Drogon's lair Dragonstone. It's hilarious. So that's where we catch up with her. She's basically been roughing it. She's been eating mutton. Surprisingly, oh, surprise! Mutton is the choice. Charred, disgusting mutton. She would eat the marrow from the bones, right? She would eat the raw pieces of the sheep. And also, there's a little pond in front of Dragonstone where she would catch fish. She caught one fish her first day. She wasn't able to catch another one. So then she's like, I gotta fucking go. Drogon is being fucking a butthole, and I gotta get out of here. So she starts walking. She walks for like half a day, and she follows, or actually it's noted that she saw a few days prior to where we catch up with her at, she saw a gleaming stream. She knows that all streams lead to the Skahazadan, the Slaver's Bay. Ultimately, that's her sanctuary, to get water, but to lead her back home, right? So she sets out, and she keeps thinking, if I look back, I'm lost. She was walking for hours and hours. And then she finds what the fuck she was looking for. And she turns around and looks back and realizes, holy shit, I'm not really that far from Dragonstone. And then she thinks, if I look back, I'm lost. So she keeps going. Keeps walking. It's interesting. She finds these fucking berries like a dum-dum. But before we even get to that, I'm going to talk about that in a second. Drogon actually flies over her, like, to the point where she can literally reach up and touch him, and he don't even look down at her. Now, as the reader, reading Daenerys' point of view thoughts, you think, hey, fuck you, butthole. You could take me back to the city, and it would take you two seconds to go back there. Why aren't you landing to take me back? Daenerys even has the fucking whip on her. Right? That's what you're thinking. Then you realize, oh shit, no. Drogon is just basically letting her know, like, look, just be a dragon. Make me do what the fuck you want me to, right? So, she keeps walking. Then she finds these fucking berries. And she's like, you know what? These are the same berries that the women used to cook back with, they would flavor meat with these berries back in the Khalasar. And she's like, these are those same berries. So she eats one, and then she starts eating them by the handful. About 30 fucking minutes later, she gets the worst cramps of her life, and she starts shitting brown water. She drinks water, passes out, has to wake up, crawl, drink some more water, shits, right? Then it becomes bloody, right? Disgusting. It's nasty. This video is demonetized. I've been talking for like 10 minutes without even checking the chat. I'll jump in the chat there in a second. But yeah, so, she's got the poop thing happening. She's got the passing out things happening. Then she wakes up, right? She's having dreams, right? I'll get to those in a second. Then when she wakes up, she feels blood. She's like, holy shit. I'm gonna fucking die here. That's interesting because a couple chapters before this, she starts helping people with the bloody fucks, right? The pale mare, this sickly fucking person comes into the city and spreads the bloody flux everywhere. Everybody gets it. Daenerys feels terrible one day when she's riding through the city, and she decides, that coffee's cold as shit. She decides that, hey, I'm gonna help these sick ass people. These are my children. And then you think as the reader, oh no, you dumb bitch, don't do that. Why you gonna do that? You gonna get the bloody flux. But then you realize she didn't get it. But then you also realize that maybe she did. But no, it's probably those berries that gave her that bout of diarrhea. But anyway, she, after she realizes she's bleeding, she's like, oh, it's my moon's blood. She's like, oh, it's my period. Period just came on. Then she's like, I've never had a flow this heavy before. This is crazy. Excuse me. That was fucking gross. So then she realizes that it's not what she thought it was. She's probably maybe she's having a miscarriage. We don't really know. Maybe something else. But she takes, this is crazy. George is a dark, dark person. She takes some blades of grass and then rubs her blood on the grass, and then the grass starts talking to her, right? So before that, she has a conversation with Viserys, her brother. And Viserys is like, this was my army, what the fuck? And then she's like, the Dothraki give gifts. You gave them my maidenhead as a gift. They will give you a crown. You just have to wait. They don't pay people money. They don't give them shit, right? They gift you stuff. So obviously Viserys grew impatient. We all know what happened to him. She talks to him for a bit. He tries, obviously she's envisioning this, but he does what Viserys does and, gives her the worst pep talk ever. And then his face just sort of sloths off. It's pretty crazy. But then afterwards, when she rubs the blood on the grass, it starts talking to her. Specific, it says, what you kind of take away from that. It's a bunch of things. It's actually really deep. But ultimately, this is what leads people into thinking. And then a few other things that obviously happens throughout her journey. It's what leads people into thinking Daenerys is going to be the Mad Queen. It's ultimately, Drogon comes back. Daenerys actually sees a Blood Rider show up, on the little river embankment thing that she's in. She's scared as shit. He's a scout. And she's like, fuck, I am fucked, right? She's like, he's either gonna rape me or take me back to the Dash Kaleen where I'll live out my days as a crone, right? But the grass keeps her concealed. And then Drogon shows up. Whew, dark wings, my friend, dark wings, right? Shows up, bam, eats that motherfucker. Chases him down first, then eats him. Then Daenerys hops down. Oh shit, I forgot. Daenerys gets on Drogon's back and flies off with him. And then Drogon chases down that motherfucker. Daenerys hops down and starts eating the charred fucking flesh too. And she's like, what would my husband, Hizdar Zolorak, do? And she's like, well, he's a pussy, so he would be like, what are you doing, nasty ass? And then she's like, Dario would cut a piece of meat off and sit by her. So anyway, she gets back on Drogon, or I guess not really. 50 riders show up around her, and she basically is holding on to Drogon, like leaning on him. So it's obvious what's gonna happen. She has Drogon with her. She's going to mount him, go back to the Dosh Khaleen, follow that Khalasar back, get a whole fresh troop of Blood Riders, and save the city. That's totally the assault that you saw the Khalasar do on the Lannister men, right, in Season 7. That's what's going to happen to Meereen. She's going to fucking sweep everything off. We already know that the battle's kicking off. The fucking Yunkai slavers are shooting bloody flux bodies over the city. Fucking body parts are hitting in battlements and just spreading out and fucking landing in front of brazen beasts and just all kinds of crazy shit, right? Tyrion, new Brown Ben Plum, turned cloak twice, right? He betrayed Daenerys when he thought she was going to lose, and then, fights for the other side, and Tyrion joins the Second Sons, and then Brown Ben Plum and Tyrion and all of them switch back. They're like, we're always Queen's men. They got Jorah with them. Shit's going down. Barristan has got some Queensguard knights he's been training. A couple of them are fucking badass. One of them, he says, it reminds him of, he hasn't seen a natural swordsman as skilled as this kid that he's training to be a Queensguard since Jaime. So that's fucking, that's something. It's about to go down. It's about to get crazy. But all of that, which we think, the dragons are out there fucking running shit. Viserion kind of burned a couple ships, ate some people, and flew back up to his lair in one of the pyramids. It's actually really funny because in Daenerys' early chapters, she's thinking like, oh, my fucking enemies are in all of these fucking pyramids. She's like telling her children subconsciously, when you're free, go make your lair in these assholes' pyramids over there. Take care of that, right? So Viserion, he goes back to his lair, but last we hear with Tyrion, Rhaegal's still flying around in the sample chapter that we got. I think it was Tyrion's sample chapter. Might have actually been Varys and Selmy's. I can't even remember. But anyway, the shit is about to go down. So the next person that I wanted to talk about, let's see, we just talked about Daenerys for, what was that, 20 minutes maybe? Yes, about that. All right, so then, let me get rid of that. Well, let's talk about my boy Stannis. Just give me 1 second. So Stannis is a fan favorite, right? So Dan and Dave kind of did their interpretation of him on the TV show. The actor who played him did an amazing job. I could see why they would choose to make him appear as though he was a fucking cult leader at first, right? I can kind of see that. So this is an image of Stannis from Fantasy Flight Games. I'm not sure who the actual artist is, but you can type in Stannis, Fantasy Flight Games, and you'll see him. So Stannis is a bad motherfucker, right? This guy is, in my opinion, if I had to rank him on a tier system of A Song of Ice and Fire characters from 1 to 5, Stannis would be like up there with Jon Snow and Daenerys. Here's the thing. Yes, he burns people. Yes, he stares into the flames. But to be honest, that's the only kind of bad thing about him. He's one of the most straightforward, loyal people in all of the books. So, kind of interesting things happen regarding his storyline in A Dance with Dragons. Obviously, picking up in the beginning, he just saved. Excuse me. Excuse me again. He literally just saved Jon Snow in the Night's Watch at Castle Black. He's just swooped in and taken care of Mance Rayder's wildlings. And he's made his, camp at Castle Black. He's imposing on Jon Snow. He's eating up his supplies. He's telling him, this is what you should do. He offers to make him Lord Stark, right? He offers him to ride with him south to Winterfell and reclaim his birthright and, get his sister, right? But he turns all that down, so Stannis is like, all right, fuck you, man, I'm leaving. So then Stannis starts marching south. He takes, is it Deepwood Mott? Yeah, I think he takes Deepwood Mott, right? And he's like 300 leagues from Winterfell. 100 leagues, which is 300 miles. And it takes him an insane amount of time. Basically, what you see happening to him on the show, minus Melisandre and Selyse and Shireen being with him, is what happens to him with the Dance of Dragons. There's fucking snow. You know what? There's some contradictory here in George's writing, right? Because they have all these horses, they're butchering them up, they have all these men. How much fucking... you can live off very little food. So I understand people are going to be starving, right? Some of the men even resort to cannibalism, and Stannis has them burned, right? But horses are a lot of fucking meat. Are they only picking the choicest bits? I understand that, right? So Asha's a captive. Eventually, Asha, Theon's sister, becomes a captive of Stannis, and it's said that she, doesn't have to suffer as much as everybody else because she's the king's prize, right? The king's, he doesn't, treat her nice or anything, but she's riding in a cabin. She's in chains, but she gets to eat horse meat with the knights and shit. So, I don't understand. I guess maybe not all of the horse is edible, but didn't Stannis talk about how he would boil down books to eat the glue in between them or some shit? Bro, if you got that resourceful, motherfucker should be eating horse hair or something. You know what I mean? I don't know. He has a lot of men with him. It is cold, but also I don't know. So yeah, anyway, Stannis is making his way to Winterfell. He does, seem as if there may not be a ton of options for him, right? But then Tycho Stannis shows up at the wall in one of Jon's sample chapters. Jon makes an agreement with him to borrow money from the Iron Bank to buy food and ships to get them through the winter, because winter is here. Actually, in King's Landing, there's a foot of fucking snow. In the epilogue, in Kevin's POV, he's walking through through the courtyard or whatever, and it's the snow is deep as shit. But anyway, so Jon Snow makes a deal with Tycho Stannis, the Iron Bank of Bravos guy, the dude that meets with Cersei in season 7 and then season 8. You've seen him a few times, I think. But Jon Snow sends him to Stannis. And Jon, at the end of that POV chapter, actually says, yo, Stannis may have just won the war. Obviously, he still has a fight, but with the backing of the Iron Bank, because they know that Cersei and Kevin and Tommen are not going to pay the crown's debts, they decided to back Stannis. Jon thinks, Stannis just won this fucking war. So then, Tycho Stannis shows up in Asha's sample chapter. Basically, she's walking through the snow looking for Justin Massey, and these dudes show up. They're her dudes that have been bought to work for Tycho. They escorted him, basically, to Stannis. So then Stannis meets with him and sends Justin Massey off to escort Tycho Stannis back, and he's supposed to bring back 20,000 men. So Stannis has effectively won this war, although it seems like he's fucked. And if Roose sends his bastard Ramsay, it's possible, right? That 20 good men scene from the show never really happened. I think it'll be interesting to see, what does actually happen. We know at this point, if you just read it, you know that the Pink Letter is not written by Ramsay, because the amount of spear wives that Mance Well, actually, I guess that leads to Jon believing that it is Ramsay that sends the letter. It's pink wax, so it's possible. I just think that there's so much going on there. It's probably not Ramsay that wrote the letter, right? Could be Mance wanting to get Jon Snow to come out, but regardless, that letter ends up getting Jon killed. He riles everyone up in the Shield Hall, and they're like, "Fuck it, we're gonna fight for you." He's like telling everyone, "Hey, I'm going to disobey my vow." How the fuck did I get to talking about Jon? Because we're supposed to be talking about Stannis here. I don't even remember that side tangent that I'm trying to make. The pink letter. Oh, yeah. So because of the pink letter and because of the POVs, we think that Stannis, some people think that Stannis is dead, but then you read this sample chapter from Theon, and you realize Theon is a prisoner. The sample chapter is obviously from Winds of Winter. Sample chapter, I don't know if it means, is it the full chapter or just a sample of the chapter? Because usually the chapters are longer, and they don't necessarily end that way. Like, it was a really short Barristan chapter. Maybe it just seems that way because I've been listening to the audiobooks and I had to read the sample chapters, and it seems shorter because of that. Okay, so, all right. I guess, damn, I should have did that. I didn't even think about that. So I'll come back to Stannis here in a second. Let's take some questions on Daenerys. Did anybody, I'm going to look back through the chat. Did anybody have any questions on my thoughts on Daenerys? Because I guess we talk about Jon Snow now. Let me do a shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to Lord Crackhead 33, Generational, Chaz Bustos, Corey Link, Jonathan Wood, Samak Rosario, Aaron Smiley, New Changes, Winterfell 26, PJ's Reed, The Prince of Dragonflies, Sincere Words, Shantaray Wilkins, Marjan K. Kavuzi, Gaming Trucker 101, Cornish Pixie, Lady X Black, and Usama BSN. Dennis Sorensen. Can't remember if I said your name already. What is up, y'all? So yeah, going back for Daenerys questions, skimming over to see if I can find one or two. Sincere Wood said Dany is the baddest bitch in the verse. Hell yeah. You know what though? To be honest, I actually like show Daenerys a little bit more than book Daenerys, right? So I was thinking about this, and the main reason being is because Daenerys on the TV show becomes what she's becoming in the books and hasn't become yet, right? She becomes that on the TV show a lot quicker, right? And because I see that envisioned, and she's riding her dragons, and in the TV show she has more control of them, or more control of them, right? I admire that version of Daenerys a little bit more. But once The Winds of Winter comes out, and once A Dream of Spring comes out, well then I'll probably enjoy book version of Daenerys a little bit more. Book version of Daenerys right now is a little girl in a big man's world. So she has to not become the dragon. She has to kill the girl and let the woman be born. She's kind of started to do that, but the fact that she doesn't pull that whip out and whip Drogon right away or fly him back to the city immediately, I don't admire that as much. I still love her character. She's still my top 2. It's frustrating to read that. And like George did that on purpose because obviously he's not writing it from his perspective. He's pretending that he's Daenerys writing from her perspective. So she's not going to do everything we want her to do. And that's kind of frustrating to me a little bit. Also, Tormund has a dick piercing. Was there any other? Generation Tark said they have dragon blood and her eating the mutton like she did. Isn't that a horse? Is that what you're talking about? We're talking about Dance of Dragons where she kills that rider in her last POV. It's a horse. but I'm sure she does eat savagely. But so dragon blood, king's blood is special. Sacrificed king's blood is even more special. Sacrificing someone with king's blood who believes in you is almost the most special, and then dragon blood is the most special, right? I think that's kind of what George was symbolizing when Daenerys wiped the blood on the grass and the grass started talking to her. Like, I can't quite break it down into words, but the Targaryen, all right, so the one little bit of information that we have that kind of is like the piece to a bigger puzzle of trying to figure out how the fuck the dragons like the Targaryens, or how the Valyrians originally controlled them, is area, right? So fuck. Jaehaerys' niece, Jaehaerys the Conciliator, Viserys' grandfather, Prince Daemon, right? Everybody knows the Rogue Prince. His great grandfather. Anyway, his niece, so his sister's daughter, Rhaenys' daughter, stole Balerion, right? She's basically this little girl who's fucking, like, wanted to, not be on Dragonstone. So one night, she hops on Balerion and fucking disappears. She disappears for a solid year. Then when she returns, Balerion the Black Dread has a 9-foot-long gash down his back, which is crazy as fuck, because Balerion, even during that time, was the biggest dragon ever, right? So it's crazy that there's something out there in the world that could wound the biggest dragon that united the 7 kingdoms. Or as I call them, the ever-warring kingdoms. If there's not a Targaryen with dragons and power, there's always some shit going down, right? So it's scary that something could wound Balerion. But Arya, right? That's that little bit. What happens to her is a little bit of knowledge that we kind of can assume and piece together. So, Septon Boths, really close with Jaehaerys. So the people that are like sort of taking care of Arya lock the door. They don't want anyone in there. They're like, you don't need to see this shit. So what they write down is pretty crazy. So basically, she's burning from the inside out. Her flesh is starting to blacken and peel and char. Then they put her in an ice bath, right? To just sort of summarize, because I've talked about Arya's death before. They put her in an ice bath, and when they do that, these fucking fireworms jump out, and they've got human faces on them. One of them is as long as a man's arm, right? Some of them are small, some of them are really big. The fact that Arya is of dragon blood, the fact that Balerion was around before Valyria was destroyed, kind of makes you think. We know what Drogon did with Daenerys. Drogon had made a lair when Daenerys was flying to Dragonstone in Essos in the Dothraki Sea, not the real Dragonstone. When Daenerys was flying there, she was looking down and could see that Drogon had been there for a while, because there's patches of land that were burned. So she could look, and she's like, it's almost like a map leading up to where his cave is. There's these big spots of ground that are burned. The whole air is thick with sulfur and ash and all this shit. So that's probably what Balerion did with Arya, is because she can't control the dragon's like, okay, you want to go for a ride? I'm going to take you back to my old dragon lair. So Balerion took her back to his dragon lair. That's when she was probably found by some sick, perverse people. Maybe Drogon was attacked by a fireworm. The fireworms bit her and laid eggs inside of her. Balerion was able to escape with her. Maybe there was a battle, and then they flew back, and then that's when we saw, right? So because, obviously another possibility is that she was attacked by a group of sycophants who were Valyrian, wanted to bring back, or wanted to make dragons, right? And they knew that the only way to do that is by having a Valyrian with fireworms in her, and then the offspring from that would maybe produce some sort of a dragon-like creature, and then they breed that, and then bam, they have a whole new lineage of dragons that are linked to them, and it's like, I don't really know what the fuck they were planning. It's crazy. But because it was kind of like, she was gone for a while and she was able to come back, that made me think that she probably wasn't attacked by a group of people, because it probably would have killed her. I think she was probably, living in the wild like Daenerys is doing for a while, and then they were attacked by a fireworm, and the fireworm probably bit her, and when it bit her, it laid eggs in her. Maybe that's what happened to the original Valyrian shepherds. They were bit or attacked by the fireworms, because fireworms can tunnel through rock, and Viserion can do this in underneath Daenerys' pyramids where she keeps him. Viserion hangs from the ceiling like a fucking bat, and then he builds a cave through the foundation of the pyramid itself. He builds like a cave up in the distance in Quentin's POV chapter, where he's trying to be a dumbass and whip the dragons into shape. He notices that Viserion is off in the ledge, and he also notices that Viserion is hanging from the ceiling like a white bat. It's pretty crazy. But anyway, they were probably over in Old Valyria, then they got attacked, and the fireworms laid eggs inside of her, and obviously since they laid eggs inside of her, they hatched and had human faces. Maybe this is what happened to the original Valyrians. They were attacked by a fireworm, the fireworm laid eggs, the eggs hatched, those fireworm hatchlings became the first fire dancers, fire walkers, fire wizards, right? Then Valyrians fucked those people, and then they could control dragons. And eventually they had those weird albino features of white, silvery, golden hair with purple eyes, and the ability to control unnatural creatures, right? I don't know. So back to Stannis. I think that was it before we move on to Jon Snow. Yeah, let's move on to Jon Snow, then I'm going to get out of here. Been streaming for 49 minutes. It's perfect. All right, Jon Snow. So Jon obviously died. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Jon Snow dies in A Dance with Dragons. I know. I'm kind of ruining you guys' whole thing here. Telling you about something that's been a big spoiler since 2011. But Jon Snow. Alright. So we have a Varamir epilogue. Varamir Sixskins epilogue. But ultimately, Jon Snow is at the wall and sort of playing bitch to Stannis. Like, Jon Snow's inner thoughts are constantly smartass. He wants to stay. Actually, all the characters are smartasses. What the fuck am I talking about? Not just Jon Snow. Every single character. It's confusing because, especially Tyrion, will think of the most funniest shit, but then say something really obedient or say something slightly cocky. Or in Barristan's case, think two different things and then say something different. So it's like Barristan Selmy's chapter. He thinks they're like, we're not going to fucking survive. These dragons aren't going to be able to tell the difference between their enemies. And yeah, so anyway, Jon Snow is basically pushing the boundaries of his role in A Dance with Dragons further and further. Did I even talk about what was going to happen with Daenerys and Stannis? Okay, for wins. So let me do that real quick. Okay, so Stannis in Winds of Winter. Stannis will take Winterfell. Stannis will marry Justin Massey to Asha Greyjoy. Stannis will ultimately sit the Iron Throne, or be sitting it, right? In all but actually being in King's Landing when Daenerys shows up. Remember, we have Aegon in the Stormlands. We have one of the Conningtons in King's Landing saying that he didn't know anything about it. He's now a prisoner or whatever. Aegon has landed. He wants to lead an assault on the Stormlands. He wants to go and take, like, basically Stannis' home. John Connington is like, no, you can't go. I think you should send your men. And Aegon's like, no, I want to go. So that will play into Stannis' role. I think Stannis will obviously win the North, and with winning the North, with people who don't know that much say the North is larger than all the other kingdoms put into it, but that's not the case. The North is big, but it's not that big, right? So if Stannis can win the North, if Stannis has the support of the Iron Bank, Stannis is probably going to sit the Iron Throne for a good amount of time in wins a winner, right? So then with Daenerys, she's going to, I actually did say what Daenerys is going to do, but just to reiterate, Daenerys is going to mount Drogon, go and replenish her Khalasar. She's going to have the biggest Khalasar to ever be known. She's going to then go back to Meereen and sweep the city. What'll be interesting is that because George tells the story in 3 parts, if she does go back to the city with all the Khalasar, it may take her a while to do that. And when she gets there, everybody could be dead. Literally, the battle could rage on. The dragons could just burn everything. So Daenerys could be coming back with a Khalasar to a dead city. If that's the case, maybe she will get her wits about her, finally be a dragon, not a mad queen, but a dragon, and go to fucking Westeros with this screaming horde of Dothraki warriors and go and wreak havoc against her nephew and then Stannis and then Jon Snow. Like, this is so much. But she's probably going to get a large army and go back to Meereen. And then halfway through, right, around halfway, when we get to her later POV chapters, she will start the journey embarking to Westeros. Daenerys will go west. Stannis will go south. And then we have Jon Snow, we're talking about right now. Jon Snow is dead. A lot of people like to say he's smarter in the books. I think he's a boundary pusher in the books. I think the issues with Ned are plaguing his offspring. At least, here's the thing. Jon Snow's father may be Rhaegar. Jon Snow's mother may be Lyanna. But his actual parents are Catelyn and Ned. Those are the ones who raised him. Catelyn was a bitch. Ned was a bit of a bastard sometimes, but those are his parents. Those are his role models. Those people had the most influence over his life, so Jon still thinks about Catelyn to this day. He actually thinks, like, in one of his chapters in The Dance of Dragons, when he says Bran is not my brother, or I am not, I'm not a Stark, basically, he's like, Catelyn would be happy as shit to hear him say that. But anyway, those are his parents. Jon is plagued with the same problems as Ned, and this is why he lost his head, or almost, right? He gets stabbed, punched with a dagger in the belly, slit across the throat, and then stabbed literally in the back. Here's the thing, though. Are Whittlestick and Bowen Marsh in their right? Because Jon literally had just said about fucking 1 page before that, I'm going to leave the Night's Watch. I don't want any of my brothers to live. But if you want to follow me, you can. It'll be on my regards, not yours. He's fucking deserting the Night's Watch. So it's kind of like, are they going to get in any trouble when Jon gets brought back? Because yes, he's going to be brought back because literally Melisandre's right there. That's one thing the show didn't show you. It's like, Bowen Marsh God, like, he leaves halfway through Jon's speech in the Shield Hall, right? Let me take the, down. I guess I could just make it smaller. He takes... Like, okay, so, god damn it. Let me see. I'll make this smaller. There we go. And then I'll do that. And then take it off half my face. Yeah, there we go. That's good. Does that work for you guys? It works for me. All right. So, Jon is like, he gets the pink letter. He's having a meeting in the Shield Hall. He convinces his brothers to join him. He's going to go. He said, I plan on making the bastard pay for the words that he said in that letter, which was that he was going to cut his heart out. So Jon Snow's like, listen, I'm not commanding you to do this, but I'm doing this. Are there any people that want to join me? Obviously, there's a bunch of people that did it. Jon made a really convincing speech, but he notices that Bowen Marsh and his men leave. He notices that Melisandre is gone as well. The queen's men leave with her. But he goes outside, he hears some shit, and he thinks, is that a woman's cry? And then he realizes, no, that's a man's cry in mortal agony. Sir Patrick, the fucking mountain, or whatever. Sir Patrick of the something mountain, I can't even fucking remember. Anyway, he's like dead as shit, right? He's being slammed up against the wall by one weg, one dart, one. And Jon's like trying to control the scene. He's like, yo, stay back. Everybody get the fuck back. Let's motherfucker breathe. He tells Leathers, speak to one weg, one dar, one in the old tongue. Speaking of which, the old tongue is literally Valyrian. Bet y'all didn't know that, did you? The old tongue is Valyrian. It's mentioned several times. One of the pit fighters has these Valyrian tattoos across him, and they think that it makes his flesh steel, like he can't be cut. And we also find out about bands with Valyrian glyphs written on them, Dragonbinder. Makoro is explaining to Victarion about what they mean. One of the bands says, this is Dragonbinder, like, that's the horn's name. And then another one says that whoever blows it, you're gonna fucking die. This horn has to be paid for with blood. So it's hinted at several times. I don't know. I don't have much evidence for the old tongue being Valyrian. But anyway, that's what happens. And then Jon sees steel, naked steel, out of the corner of his eye, turns around, bam, whittlestick slashes at his fucking neck. And he's like, oh, man, what the fuck, man? What are you doing? He's like trying to tell him, put that away. The giant's going to see that. So anyway, this shit happens in front of a bunch of people. Melisandre's there at the wall. Selyse threatens him, like, you're going to pay for your fucking decisions when the king returns, for threatening Jon Snow, right? But really, Jon Snow gets himself killed. He didn't have to say shit to no one. He should have, I don't know what he should have done, but maybe if he had left Castle Black that night when everybody was sleeping and then sent word for them, right? All of his homies were gone. But all of his biggest enemies were gone too. Bowen Marsh was kind of like an enemy building. He could tell, hey, look, I could see something's off. The Lord Stewart, right? So yeah, I feel like Jon Snow could have slipped out. They would have found out about him, and those who wanted to desert the Night's Watch would leave with him and eventually probably catch up to him, right? Jon would have gotten stuck in the snow. Not the case. He wants to be like, hey, it's only man, let's do it. Look out himself, we can fucking roll it. Let's do it, man. Like a fucking lad, and that's what happened to him. So it's pretty obvious what will happen. Jon, it's George literally tells us, like, in the book what's gonna happen to Jon. Jon has this dream, and he still sees Summer and Greywind, and he's like, I wonder, is it Jon who thinks this? He's like, I wonder if a piece of them is still in their wolf. Is it Jon or Bran? I can't remember. God damn, this is embarrassing. But anyway, that's literally what's going to happen. Jon Snow is going to go into his wolf to still remain mostly whole. He literally calls out for Ghost, sticking with the pointy end, all that bullshit. So he's going to go into Ghost for a little bit. Then Melisandre is going to probably die resurrecting him. Because if we pay attention to what she says about when she glamours Mance to look like Rattleshirt, it takes a lot out of her. She doesn't tell them that. We learned this from her POV chapter. But she doesn't tell them that because she knows that, like, magic works better if it's mysterious. But if she has to, like, put in so much effort to make someone look like someone else, bringing back someone from the dead would probably take a lot from her too. But then you also have to realize that she's glamoring a dead person to look like someone else. So there was still some magic involved. Like, the ruby gets so hot it almost burns her flesh when Rattleshirt is burning in the cage glamored as Mance. So maybe because Jon Snow will go into Ghost, it'll be easier for her to pull Jon Snow from Ghost and put him back into his body, and Jon will mostly be whole. And maybe killing the boy, what Aemon tells him to do, literally was that he had to die to become a man. Daenerys basically died to become who she's about to be, which is a woman, a dragon. 1 hour and 1 minute. That is a perfect time to cut this video off. I think we talked plenty about A Dance of Dragons. If you could please do me a massive favor and slap a like on this video. Like goal is going to be 69. I'm going to get out of here in the next couple of minutes. I'm just going to take a few questions. There's not that many in the chat. I think I was kind of going off on too many tangents. I'm not sure if anything that I said really warrants questions. I don't know. It's kind of just like me talking. Cornish Pixie says, how long do you think Selmy will last? How long do I think Barristan Selmy will last? Do you think he will be killed in Meereen? Here's the thing. So with characters like Barristan Selmy, right? We gotta remember, or we gotta think of like who Barristan is. Okay, so Barristan is this old aged knight that, if we're to be completely honest, what the fuck am I doing here? He probably would have died had Joffrey had not released him, right? So in Barristan's POV chapters, he can not remember what he ate 2 weeks ago, but he can remember an entire day from 42 years ago. Maybe Barristan isn't going to... Barristan will die, but maybe it won't be with a sword in his hand. Maybe Barristan will survive all of this shit, and he's going to die from being senile of old age. I don't know. In his POV chapters, he is extremely sullen and remorseful, but so is every other character in George's universe. He thinks about all of the failed kings. He thinks about which one would have made a good king. He thinks about how he won't. Him and John Connington thoughts are kind of similar at that. So Griff and Barristan have similar remorse. With Griff, it's more so that Griff had the opportunity to burn an entire village when during Robert's rebellion, Robert was wounded and being hidden in the Stony Sept. Griff could have burned the entire village. Like, he actually thinks like Tywin would have burned the whole thing and then found the bones of Robert afterwards. But he didn't do that. Griff wanted to meet Robert in single combat, and then he basically lost and thinks that that's why. Because afterwards, after Robert wins that little Stony Sept battle, he goes off to kill Rhaegar. So Griff thinks to himself, if I didn't want to be chivalrous and had been like a dog or fought in a not so chivalrous way, like basically saying fuck honor, Rhaegar might have still been alive. So when you're reading Connington's thoughts, it's similar to Barristan's thoughts. He's like, God damn, if I had just done this one fucking thing with Aerys, or if Barristan thinks that if he had like beat Rhaegar in the joust, then he would have been the one who could crown the Queen of Love and Beauty, and he would have picked Ashara Dane, who wasn't there at the tourney, but that's who he would have picked. And if he had, excuse me, that's really disgusting. And if he had beat Rhaegar, and Rhaegar hadn't have handed the crown of Blue Winter Roses to Lyanna and named her the Queen of Love and Beauty, then that would have stopped the war. But that's foolish. That's old senile thoughts. And a lot of the times Barristan questions himself. Dario calls him the old grandpa, old man. And Dario's like, well, I am getting old. He beats the shit out of the Kroz guy, but that's because Kroz isn't wearing armor like a fucking dumbass. So Barristan has to take back the city. He imprisons his Darzo Lorak, and when he does it's a very treacherous way. Barristan hates everything about it, but he has to do it, right? So he goes to his Darzo Lorak's chambers in the pyramid, and he fights this dude Kroz with no armor. Kroz is faster than him, as fast as any man that Barristan's ever fought, but Kroz doesn't know how to fight someone in armor. So Barristan gets the better of him. It's kind of funny because Kroz the whole time is like, that blow would have took off your arm if you weren't wearing armor. And then he's trying to tell Barristan, take off your armor, dude. Let's fight like how I do in the pits, man. It's really funny. But obviously it doesn't happen. So, do I think he will survive Meereen? Yes. Barristan, because his character wants to die fighting for Daenerys, wants to succeed in doing that. I think he will, and he may be one of the few characters that gets a happy or a Disney-esque ending. It just makes sense because he's in his chapter, because he's so old, he's like 63 or whatever, all he's thinking about is death. It's like the stranger comes to visit all of us eventually. It just makes sense if he were to outlive everyone. Maybe he tries to sacrifice himself for Daenerys, but ultimately can't and has to live with that. I don't know. And then let's see, there was a couple of questions. I can't wait for the new book to come out, hopefully this year. Maybe. Hopefully. Well, I think that was it. Yeah, I don't see any. Unless, for some reason, the chat over here is not refreshing. I can't see any more questions. So I'm going to get out of here. I think we did a good job of talking about the most choicest characters of, Winds of Winter. Obviously, we care about Stannis, Jon Snow, and Daenerys, probably the most. Tyrion, but I did talk about him some. I actually need to read his, or reread his, Winds of Winter sample chapter. if I'm not mistaken, his is one of the only ones that isn't written down, because George like read it, right? Let me see. Oh, no, it's from the World of Ice and Fire app. I could read it real quick, but I don't want to do that. All right, so yeah, it's a good spot as any to get out of here. I want to thank you all so much for watching. It would be awesome if you could slap a like on this video. If not, make sure, well, if you don't slap a like, I don't think you'll subscribe and turn notifications on. But anyway, I'm going to get the fuck out of here. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Mark, and this has been Sir Hunt's Long Night Reviews. Zeldrizas, Buzdari, Ixos. Remember, if you enjoy Winds of Winter content and you enjoy a Song of Ice and Fire book content, make sure you go and watch those videos and share them. It takes me so much longer to make those kinds of theories videos, and because I put so much time and effort into them, and if they don't do well, I'm less likely to make them. If you do enjoy those, let me know by just sharing it. Like, one of the best things you can do if you're a fan of a YouTuber is to make a playlist of all of their videos and just put it on the background and let it, like, keep replaying. The views will still count towards the YouTuber, and it helps, like, promote their videos. If there's, like, 10 people that do that, well, then that's, like, 1,000 views. Anyway, my name is Mark, and this has been Sir Hunts. That's really the best way to support any YouTuber, right? So you might think that giving them money or joining their Patreon or buying merch, that's a good way to support them, and a lot of times they can get more out of that, right? If you do that. But for me, I don't think I should be selling t-shirts or doing anything crazy like that. So for me to help my channel, obviously you can join my Patreon over on patreon.com/SirHuntsReviews. That'd be fucking awesome if you did. Obviously, I'd really appreciate that. But just watch my videos. That's the best thing you can do to help me personally and in any other YouTuber you like. If you're watching consistently, if you're liking consistently, and you're leaving a comment consistently, YouTube will see that, and they'll promote my videos to new viewers. Thank you all. My name is Mark, and this has been Sir Hunt's Long Night Review.